Lucas showed up at Viviana's door with a young pregnant woman at his side. Viviana's heart stopped for a moment. A deep chill invaded the room, while the silence between them spoke louder than 1,000 words. If you want to find out what happens next and follow other exciting stories like this, subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss a thing. Enjoy. Viviana was known by everyone in the small town of Castelverde as a woman with a strong, almost impenetrable character. Her determined gaze, accompanied by her rigid posture, told of a life made of sacrifices, solitude, and struggle. Since she was a child, she had had to learn to fend for herself. After the premature death of her parents, she took her younger siblings under her wing, becoming a mother figure to them, a steady beacon in the storm. Yet, that sense of responsibility that had tempered her, over time, had also erected walls around her heart, making her increasingly distant and distrustful of others. Then Lucas arrived, a man with a difficult past, also marked by life's wounds. He had come to Castelverde for a temporary job, a construction site that was supposed to close in a few weeks. Lucas was not the classic charming and talkative man, but there was a calmness in him, a confidence that had attracted Viviana's attention. Between the two, an understanding was born that was almost imperceptible at the beginning, made of shared silences and brief exchanges of words. Yet for Viviana, who had never allowed anyone to really get close to her, that bond had been a small revolution. As time passed, Lucas had won the woman's heart, and when the job was finished, instead of leaving like all the other workers, he had knocked on Viviana's door, asking her to stay. It had come as a surprise to her. Lucas, with his gentle and patient way, had slowly melted the ice that Viviana had cultivated to protect herself. Thus, the two had begun a new life together, finding a serenity that seemed unexpected. Their routine was simple but rewarding. Viviana took care of the house, and Lucas worked in a factory in the village. Despite the judgment of the people, who often looked at their relationship with suspicion, Viviana did not let herself be affected. She was sure of Lucas's feelings, and for the first time in a long time, she felt safe. Unfortunately, he did not know that this security was destined to collapse. One day, Lucas announced that he was leaving for a short business trip. Nothing strange, Viviana thought. She said goodbye to him calmly, confident that he would return soon. But a week passed, and Lucas did not return. Viviana tried to contact him for hours, but the phone remained silent. The concern grew until she went to the police station to report the disappearance of her companion. The officer, after listening to her story, filed a report of the man's disappearance. Viviana didn't want to believe it. Lucas would never abandon her like that. Yet, the days passed, and he did not return. Suspicion, like a snake, began to creep into her heart, bringing with it a pain that she could not calm. Then, one morning, the doorbell rang. Viviana opened the door, and what she saw left her paralyzed. If you are enjoying the story, please leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your support. Lucas was there in front of her, but he wasn't alone. Next to him was a young pregnant woman. His gaze was filled with embarrassment and guilt, while Viviana felt betrayed, hurt, in a way she could never have imagined. How could he have brought that girl to their home? But before he could say a word, Lucas whispered, "Viviana, we need to talk." With anger and pain boiling inside her, she grabbed the first object she could find and threw it at them. "Take your things and leave," she screamed. Lucas, with the young woman at his side, walked away quickly, while Viviana, beside herself, continued to throw the objects out of the window. At that point, Lucas shouted, "What are you doing, Viviana? You have to listen to what I have to tell you. You mustn't think badly. Just listen." At that moment, the front door had remained open, and some neighbors, attracted by the commotion, had begun to eavesdrop worriedly. Viviana was furious. She slammed the door shut while screaming something, then turned off the phone. Lucas didn't want to continue that charade and walked away with the pregnant girl. Viviana stood still, breathing heavily as she watched Lucas walk away. However, his words echoed in her head. "You mustn't think badly. Listen." A shadow of doubt began to creep in between her fury and disappointment. Could there really be another explanation? But that evening, the silence of the house weighed on her like never before. She began to pace nervously, thinking over Lucas's every word, every gesture. She couldn't understand how the man she had trusted so much could do this to her. Yet the look of guilt and urgency she had seen in his eyes wouldn't leave her alone. That night, she didn't sleep. At the first light of dawn, with her heart still tormented, she decided to do something she would never have thought of. She tried to call Lucas. The phone rang for a long time, but no one answered. And just as he was about to hang up, a voice answered on the other end. It was him. "Viviana," Lucas began, his voice cracking with emotion, "I have to explain everything to you. It's not what you think." Viviana, still wary, invited him home to talk. She had no idea what to expect, but she had to know the truth. When Lucas arrived, the young pregnant woman was with him. They introduced themselves with a mixture of embarrassment and relief. Her name was Emma, and in a small voice, she began to tell her story. Emma was the daughter of Andrea, an old friend of Lucas. He had died the very day Lucas left for his business trip. Emma was left alone, and with no place to go, she had asked Lucas for help. Viviana listened in silence. She couldn't stop looking at Emma, seeing the fear and uncertainty in her eyes that reminded her of something from her past. With a deep breath, she looked down. "Lucas, why didn't you tell me before? Why did you leave me alone with my doubts?" The man explained that he didn't want to burden her with such a big problem. He had underestimated her support, thinking he was protecting her, but in reality, he had hurt her. After a few moments of silence, Viviana approached Emma and with a voice that betrayed a hidden sweetness, asked her, "And now? Are you planning to stay, or do you have somewhere else to go?" Emma shook her head, surprised by the unexpected gesture. "I have no one else," she murmured. Viviana then went a step further, telling her that she could stay, at least until she got settled, offering her the support that she herself had always wanted, but that no one had ever given her. That decision was the beginning of a new chapter for all three of them.